So I am a registered dietitian, and coming on, this will as of right now, I guess it's been like a year and a half since I passed my exam, all of those things. During my schooling, actually, I started my business, Purely Balanced Nutrition. And you may have also seen that we just celebrated the 3-year anniversary of that the past week, because, similarly to a lot of other people, I started it at the beginning of COVID. So, yeah, so that was pretty awesome. I continue doing that during my dietetic internship. I don't know how much you know about that side of things, but essentially it's a 1200 hour internship, and so there's like different rotations, and I continued with the business through all of that. And yeah, I took the exam December of 2021 now, and here we are. So I've been working with predominantly, I would say predominantly women, but I do currently have a couple male clients, and in the past I have worked with some males also. But yeah, it's been super awesome.
Tell us a little bit about that because I've never actually heard this side of the like the
Oh,
rotation side of it and what all that is involved with that.
yeah. So, funny enough, I actually just had an intern work alongside myself for the past 5 weeks, which I can't believe it's, been like that long already. Wow. But so every, rotation is kind of different, but you do have at least a clinical rotation, right? So you have to either be in a hospital, a long-term care center, and then you would have a food service one. For some odd reason, like the whole, dietetics community really loves food service. And I'm like, why? But anyway, so I personally worked in food service for like 10 years and never, ever, ever again. But so with that being said, you do have a food service rotation. So for myself, I worked at or not worked, but I was, what was it called? It was essentially like it was for lower income children, I think is what like the basis was. And essentially, I just like helped out in the kitchen side of things, like bagged up food, all of those things. But anyways, you have clinical food service. For me personally, in my internship, I had a community rotation, and it was like a couple week entrepreneurial, I can like never say that word, but rotation. And I had actually worked, or I had interned alongside a dietitian who, he has a pretty big presence on Instagram. So like that was super awesome. And his podcast, actually, as I had put in a caption last weekend, is what had originally inspired me to begin my business in the spring of 2020. So that was awesome. So pretty much I made content for him, like a lot of content during that time. But yeah, so like I said, I would say every internship program is like a bit different, because I know for my current intern, like she like I was her wellness rotation, and then she had just like an extra week. I don't know what they called it there, but and I know like for her, she had like a public health one, and like this, that, and the other. So yeah, it is a lot though. Unpaid too.
It's all about the free labor. So
Yep.
what do you feel like your biggest takeaways were though from all those different kinds, different environments, different type of people, population you're working with? What do you feel
Yeah.
like you really took away from working kind of in all those different areas?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. Health is everything. Because, when I was at all of those different places, even like I would say throughout school, right? I worked at like many different food service jobs. Like I worked at a couple of retirement homes, like in the kitchen. I worked at a meal prep company actually. And health is everything. And I really feel like people don't understand that yet. But I do feel right that we definitely are like, I would say on the up and up with that because, health is like literally at the base, I think, like of everything, right? And so essentially what we put in our body obviously does affect that, right? And I think actually it was a few weeks ago, my intern and I had made like a brief, like a reel or whatever on this. Basically like what the importance of nutrition is for us. And, that's pretty much what I went into. Like, I just feel like, people don't understand that like, what you do right now can go affect you long term, right? So I've always found that stuff like fascinating.
So what's it like working? Like, what do you, as doing what you do and with your background, what was your role, I guess, and what was the takeaway supposed to be? Working in like a senior living center, like in the kitchen, like you mentioned. Like, what if somebody chose like that's what I want to do? What would somebody be doing in that environment?
So I worked in three long-term care centers. The first one actually my grandparents owned. That was kind of cool. And that was my first job. So that was when I was 15, whenever you could first get a worker's permit. But so I was at that time, I mean, I couldn't technically be in the kitchen for, super long, like couldn't operate the dishwasher or anything. But I guess you could call it like a server because there was a dining room and all of that. And I think at that place there was a cafe. We just kind of trying to remember now what that place, because there were so many different places. And that was so long ago. I want to say we took the orders. I think we took the orders there. I will say there was a few times I did not balance things well, and they did go maybe on the resin or on the ground. But so yeah, so at I would say at all three of them, I was a server, if you will. People were kind of nice, sometimes they were nice, sometimes impatient, but I will say at some of the last ones I worked at, they were pretty fancy. Like they had like a tavern in there, like bars. The last one I'd worked at, which actually, so at two of them, my dad was he was like the executive director administrator there. So, but at the last one I worked at, I was in the bistro for a lot of it, and I basically like help to essentially like serve the food, because at that one, like they kind of like went down a line, if that makes sense. So like think like cafeteria
Right.
style sort of. So that's kind of what I did there. But when I was at my food service rotation, I was in the kitchen. And their center itself was one out of a couple. And so they actually prepared like all of the food there. And then they had like drivers to go send them off elsewhere. So I was at, and like during that time also was 2020. So I was honestly surprised like I was even allowed there. But and so for that, they didn't have as many kids there, I guess, because of all of that. But there was a couple of their other locations I'd gone to, and I had so essentially they wanted to send out like different like food packages, if that makes sense. It was all like non-perishable food and everything for the most part. And so we've just kind of like think about like an assembly line, and that was us. So it definitely makes me grateful for what I do now, because I am happy that I obviously went through all of that, but it's definitely like not the side of dietetics I would want to be in permanently, if that makes sense. And actually, funny enough, when I was in school for that, I had worked at a hospital in their kitchen, but I was there answering phones and stuff. And so with that, you got some very, very interesting people because like I was like cussed out like a bunch of times and I'm like, dude, like I can't help you because it says here, like you're on a low sodium diet and this, that, and the other. I don't freaking care, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I can't help you.
Right.
So they did have a couple RDs there as well. And so they basically went back and forth between the kitchen and I guess like they had their own floors and everything like that they were in charge of. After seeing that, I was like, no, I cannot work in a hospital. Absolutely not. And, honestly, I just feel like in the clinical setting, like RDs are very undervalued and like that sucks. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, I was going to ask, is there, when people get put on these specific diets for whatever reason, is there any consultation from, the doctor that says, hey, this person has this, what specifically should they be eating? Or is it just based on like strictly the doctor's recommendation only?
That's the other problem. So it's weird, right? So the doctors, for whatever reason, and honestly, like no shade, right? But this has just always been something that like really frustrates myself because like, they are the ones that go tell them, hey, you have to be on like this diet or whatever it is. But they don't really go over with them what it is. And sometimes, yes, like the RD should be called up there to essentially go explain that. And so when I was in my clinical rotation at a different hospital, I did have to go up and go do that for a couple people. But for a lot of it, like, especially for those people who say like they're in an out patient center or something, like they just kind of go hand them something and they're like, here you go, like this is essentially what you have to go do now, like bye. Like what? That's not how it should be. And
Right.
so like if someone listens to this and they're like, oh my god, no, like that's absolutely not what happens. Every place may be different. I'm just talking about the places I worked at, so
Yeah,
but
it's definitely, I feel like the information is not being disseminated in a great way in any, I feel like in any, like in a lot of the links of the chain.
yeah, so I know like when I've talked to some people, like even those, who may have their doctorates or like MDs or whatever it is, like they only take like maybe a couple nutrition classes, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't understand like from that point of view why they're the ones who go tell the patients in the hospital, hey, you have to be on like a 2 gram sodium diet, or you have to go on like a gosh, it's been so long since I've been in a hospital. I don't even remember half of the diets now, but like, just all of the ones that could really go change someone's life. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like you're really telling me I can't go have like my I don't know, something that like I've always had like every day. When I was in my clinical rotation, I had to go do, I don't know if they called it like a diabetic diet. That doesn't sound right, but basically like the goal was for her to cut out like just to kind of watch her sugars, if you will. And this woman did not want to hear it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I just have to be here. She's like, what? I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
You're just the bearer of
So
bad news.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, but like it's good that they did call the RD in that circumstance, but it's like it's hard to get to people, especially because like I did find in the hospital setting, like they basically hit them with all this info right before they go home.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, they pretty much want to go be home and they don't like really care what, like we have to go say. So it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just a bit rough.
It is. It is. And how much of like in your education, or was it mostly just experience? Was it to like how much were you taught to like how to teach teach someone that and how to speak to someone about, whether it's just nutrition in general or just in maybe a clinical setting here, this is how we need to tell somebody that they have to change their diet. Like how much of that was taught versus experience?
In one of my classes in school, we did talk about like motivational interviewing and all of that. So I mean, if you want to consider that as learning, if you will, I mean, but at the same time, it's like I feel like we didn't try to remember either maybe I didn't pay attention as well as I should have, or I don't remember. Maybe we just didn't go over it a lot. Like I do remember reading about it, like when I was at work, ironically, because I like did some homework there. But yeah, I feel like I definitely learned a lot more through experience though. I don't know if I definitely haven't said this yet on here, but this is actually like my second path, if you will. So like originally I got my bachelor's in exercise science back in like 2017. And so like I took a year off, worked as a sports performance coach, and then went back to school. I feel like back in that schooling, I did learn some as well, but it's all like been through experience, I would say, like personally.
Are you looking for a supplement company that can help take your fitness game to the next level? Look no further than All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Their cutting-edge supplements are scientifically formulated to give you the edge you need in the gym and in life. Whether you're looking to build muscle, increase endurance, or boost recovery time, All Sport Pharmaceuticals has you covered. And with a wide range of products designed for people of all levels, you're sure to find the perfect supplement for your needs. So why wait? Give your body the support it deserves with All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Visit their website today to learn more and start achieving your fitness goals.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.
Yeah, and I actually have my bachelor's in exercise science as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, it was the same experience of like I know I learned a lot in school. I know like I took a lot of classes, took a lot of tests, read a lot of books. But as soon as I got out there, I realized how much I didn't know, how much information there was out there. For you, was COVID something that pushed you to starting it, or was it just like happenstance that you started it during COVID?
I feel like maybe a little bit of both because at the time I was working at a meal prep company. So like essentially that just like they had a little store, if you will, and so people could come in, purchase meals that like they had made in the back that were frozen at the time, and then like each week they have meals that they put together in the back as well, but that were not frozen. So like you basically had a couple of days for them to be good. So I did that until August of 2020, and then like I've been solely working for myself since then. But in that time, yeah, I was working at that job and I really, really hated it. And I was just like, I have to get out of here. I just kept at it and everything. Like I said at the beginning, the one podcast like just really like inspired me because and like at the time it's like I listened to other people and their stories and everything. I'm like, hell yeah, like, if they can go do it, I can too. So I just like sat down one day after class and I was like, you know what? I just have to kind of go figure all of this out. So like I started with like a free website and all of that. Didn't look the best, but it was there. Then I don't even know. I just like came up with like different systems and ideas and this, that, and the other, and like started like posting. Cause like at that point, I feel like people like, I don't want to say that they responded better to it then, but it was kind of like a quote unquote like newer thing at the time. So it was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I want to go work with you, etc. And now it's, it takes a bit more, right? But so yeah, so since I don't know where I was going with that, but so since then, like it's been, I guess, like in my life, if that makes sense.
Tell us a little bit about what you didn't like actually about that job.
Well, hopefully the guy who owns it does not watch this, but we just like butted heads at the end. It was mainly that, but also like, I don't know. I think I was just like, well, one of the big things was like the company as a whole. And obviously, I'm not going to go put them on blast because they have a lot of locations. So I would do some of their nutritional facts and macros like for the store. So not for like the overarching company or anything, but so like for the store, like, you know, I would essentially go figure out like, okay, so you know, they used X amount of beef or chicken in this meal, so how much protein's in it, etc. And so like that part was okay, but so the corporate office did like the macros for the meals that they put out weekly. There were some times when I'd be like, those are wrong, like that's wrong, like that does not add up. And one time my boss was like, oh crap. I'm like, dude, you like cannot be promoting that, like that's like not right. And there was even one time a customer came to me and was like, that doesn't look right. I was like, you are correct.
Yeah, how do you be like, I knew that, but I couldn't tell you.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, this is just like awkward. So I don't know, I feel like I just didn't vibe well with it like at the end because I was there for like this would be over a year, like a year and a couple months or so. And it's like, it was cool at first, but, and also I think I was just like so burned out of working in just like the food service industry. Like I said, you know, I started working at that first for time at home and the kitchen like side of things when I was 15. So when I quit the other job, that was 2020. I just turned 28, 6, 7, 6, 5. So like I was like 25 or 24, 25. But anyways, so that was a long time. So I think it was just like a long time coming in. It felt great to be like, peace out.
Kind of taking control, I guess, you know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, and I've always had like an issue kind of this like sounds bad, but I've always like had an issue almost working for someone else just because like I like things on like my terms, which again, that sounds so bad, but it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean there's got to be business owners out there. There has to be people like you, or else there is no
Yeah,
business. Everybody's just an employee. But
true. That's true.
so take us back a little bit in time. I want to talk about, you know, current day for sure, but take us back a little bit into what actually got you into your passion for, was it food? Was it nutrition in general? Like what got you into it?
So this is a like multifaceted thing. So I'll first begin with, so growing up, I always watched my dad work out, right? And so that like kind of started the, you know, first like phase of it, if you will. So he actually did, but like he did a few bodybuilding shows when he was like in college, right? So, but when I was growing up, like, and like they still have this, but like they've always had an at-home gym, so like that was super cool. And then like I started going to the gym with him and stuff. I guess I kind of went on my own, but my senior year of high school, like the very end of it. And so alongside that, like I always just kind of, you know, watch them like eat well. And I feel like the nutrition piece of like me being like mindful of what I was eating didn't kind of come until like maybe sophomore year of college. But within that, like that was still super cool. But so back to, I guess, the first side of things. So always, you know, watch them eat well, like really, I would say focus well on their health. And same deal with my mom's parents too. And I would say as a whole, like our whole family's like, I would say health conscious, but not like, ugh, right? And so my mom's sister actually did, but she did bikini competitions and she won her pro card in the
Oh,
natural federation actually. So that was super cool. So I watched her at a couple of her shows, right? When I was in like I guess I was in maybe high school or college. I don't remember now. But and so that actually inspired me to compete. So I've done 2 shows, and I haven't said this to anyone else, but we're gonna do a show this year at some point. Yay.
Nice.
So that's exciting. But I did figure on that side of things in the NPC. I'm probably gonna do OCB now though, because those girls are just like wild, and I sadly can not do that. But anyway, so I did bodybuilding. I like love that like so much. And so like I guess, it's just since gosh, I'm trying to think of where I want to like go take this. So I love that side of things. I love just kind of like, and this sounds bad and people may see this as like, oh my God, like she has like some issue, but I like the control of like being able to be like, like this is good for me. Like I'm going to essentially like fuel my body with this, right? But then I also like the other side of things where it's kind of the whole balance aspect too, right? Where, I mean, if you look at my page, like donuts and myself, I love donuts like so much, right? And so like you definitely can have both, but I guess I'm getting a bit off topic there. So when I was working as a sports performance coach, like after college, I had realized like this is not for me. I love nutrition side of things a lot more because during that time I think I had really gotten in, like I really started like, like blogging my food, like watching a bunch of like, like the OG like fitness YouTubers back when I was what 2015 2016 I guess. So I learned a lot through them, right? So that was awesome. And actually I guess to really answer your question, what like really started was I took a nutrition class in undergrad, and I was like, oh my God, this is like so cool. And sadly though, my GPA was not the best there. So they wouldn't let me like drop the first major and then go change over. So
Huh.
and at that point I was like a senior anyways. But I really enjoyed the couple things that I took there. And so when I had taken that year as a sports performance coach, I started looking into other schools, that essentially would take me already having a, bachelor's, right? Because for a lot of other, like, I would say dietetics programs, like you have to have the like prereqs, like organic chemistry and this, that, and the other. But I found a couple that would let me go and I could just go take those classes there. So I landed upon one in Nashville. So that was super cool. I was there for however long that was, 2 or 3 years. And so essentially that was like a post-baccalaureate certificate in nutrition and dietetics. So have that, did my internship. But yeah, and I would say one of the other things that really kind of got me to love the, nutrition side of things is like growing up, like I already said, like I was very exposed to all of that. And then like also growing up, I realized a lot of people like weren't, right? And so I would just like love to kind of go be that person for them, if like that makes any sense. So that also like really kind of got me here as well.
A lot of people don't have a role model when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And there was actually something I was gonna touch upon because you were saying that, a lot of people like they may just like not know, right? Like about any of this. And yeah, like when I was, I don't know, middle or high school, you take like a health class, right? But they like may have like a chapter or two on nutrition, but it's like they honestly like should go into it a lot more because I definitely feel like that could definitely change some people's ways of how they then like leave school or whatever, right?
There's not really like any real push out there. There's so many commercials you'll see for other things, pharmaceutical things, but there's not really like this push for, hey, let's expose people to healthy food and what that actually means, not
Yeah.
based on like a company's marketing and keto and gluten free and all these things that we hear and we don't really, we don't know what they mean. We think
Right.
we have to like apply all these things to our lives. And,
Yeah.
it's just, I think it would be an interesting thing. And I feel like it wouldn't really be that difficult if we just put like one educational, like
Yeah.
couple week class into every year of school and just, see what happens. Like, I feel like it couldn't do any harm, I would think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. Yeah, because and like you could definitely kind of go split it up, if you will, right? Like just kind of go take it slowly, obviously. But it's like that may, like I said, like potentially change like the trajectory of how someone, like leaves high school or, how they go enter college. Cause like, honestly, if I personally like knew what I knew now about alcohol, I probably would not have drank as much my like freshman year of, college. So
Looking for a supplement company that's as serious about your fitness goals as you are? Allsport Pharmaceuticals is here to help. Their top of the line supplements are designed to help you get the most out of every workout with ingredients that have been scientifically proven to enhance performance and recovery. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting out on your fitness journey, Allsport Pharmaceuticals has the perfect supplements to help you achieve your goals. Plus, with their commitment to quality and safety, you can trust that you're getting a product that's both effective and reliable. So what are you waiting for? Take your fitness game to the next level with All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Visit the website today to learn more.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right though. Like you just don't know. You just think, oh, everybody else is doing this. Everybody else is living this way. They're, they're getting 3 hours of sleep. They're staying up and studying, or they're, drinking tons of alcohol in college or whatever after college. Like it's weird. If you want to create a country, a strong country, why would you not educate your people?
Yeah, I mean, I could go like into a whole thing there, which I won't, but yes, it definitely, I would say, impacted by a law at the top for sure. But I will say, it does feel like people, younger people, I guess, teenagers, kids, if you will, I would say are beginning to be like a little bit like more health conscious, I guess, now. Like, and probably, due to like things on Instagram, TikTok, etc. As much as the social media side of things can be a pain in the behind, like those things can be good for some things, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully, like as the time goes on, that will like positively impact the generation coming up, if you will.
The only fear I have in regards to like the potential spreading of quote unquote healthy information is that
Yeah.
it's not good information. And we actually talked on a podcast last night about this.
Oh,
You hear about like, I need to, cut out this food. I need to eat more of this supplement in all these things that don't really, there's no scientific research behind it. The stuff that is scientifically researched is not being spread. So that would be my only thing is keeping the channels free to say what they want, because I think that that's important too, but making sure that the
mhm.
stuff that is being pushed is stuff that there's actually like scientific research behind. And with new food information, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a food pyramid, I don't think, but new food information coming out from the government that just looks all wacky and, all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. It's like, okay, that is information about diet and nutrition, but let's spread some actual information. I always think about it like if an elite athlete wouldn't do it, even though I don't want to like hold people like the average Joe to the same standards per se, my thing is,
Yeah,
if you wouldn't tell an elite athlete that advice, then why are you telling just the average Joe that advice? Because the body's
that's
the
true.
same.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. And like you said, there is just like a lot of BS, on like I would say on the internet, like on the TV, etc. So yeah, like it is hard to kind of go like differentiate, hey, like this is actually, what works and this is what you shouldn't really go do at this point in time. And I definitely find that like when I begin working with someone, a lot of them, at least like in the past, have come from a past of, chronically like yo-yo dieting, right? Like they'll go try everything and it's like you literally like are wasting your time, money, like just, all of it on that crap. And it's like you could have, I don't want to say more so easily solved the problem, but like you could have like essentially helped yourself out a little bit faster, if you will, if you would have just like reached out to like ARD or coach or whomever. But I do also know that for some people, like they may not follow as many people like that as myself because I swear, like I get on my Instagram and I think everyone I follow is a coach. I'm like, oh my God. It is like overwhelming.
It is. It is overwhelming. And I think that's an important thing to take into account too, is for people out there who may be looking for advice. Mm-hmm. There's so many conversations on social media that are good from really like experienced and knowledgeable people, but sometimes those experienced and knowledgeable people will be arguing about the most minute details too, like that don't really matter unless you're like maybe a bodybuilder in prep, maybe that 1% thing that they're talking about, like, and then the average person sees that and goes, oh, well, I shouldn't, eat this because this coach out there I saw said that it'll impact my body fat percentage. And they don't understand the context that that's coming from.
Yeah, that also is a good point. Yeah, that's why it also like it is always good to go give that context, right? Like, hey, like if you are not in prep, this can apply for yourself, right? And so that's why, like, I know in the past, like on socials, when I have talked about like balance this and like a balanced lifestyle, that like I feel like I've gotten some like backlash, if you will, just because I know balance looks different for everyone, right? Especially if you do compete, right? Whenever like the time comes this year, whatever it is that I go start prep again, it's going to look different for myself than like it would like for a client of mine. Cause like my clients, like that's like not who I go work with. I have in the past worked with one guy. He did like 2 shows and like it was awesome. As much as I wanted to work with that specific like population, if you will, I also know that it's a lot. There's just like a lot at play there, especially if you are not natural. And I'm like, obviously like not experienced in that. And that's like a whole, like, no. Yeah. So, I don't even know where I was going with that now, but like I was saying, balance like does look different for absolutely everyone. For some people, like their balance maybe just like being able to have like, so actually I'll give you an example. For one of my clients, she we started working together like actually it was about a month or so ago now, and she got like some Girl Scout cookies and she really wanted them, but also like was kind of afraid if she were to start eating them she would essentially eat the whole box, because that's what she did in the past. And I'm like, listen, you can go balance this out like with something else, right? So maybe you go and add them like to some Greek yogurt or something, or put them like on top of your oatmeal, or maybe you just have that like after you like have your dinner and just like allow yourself a couple or whatever it is, or go pre-plan in like MyFitnessPal or whatever. And then, at the end of the day, it's like, oh, hell yeah, I can go have these now. Right. And so again, for everyone, like that may not work. And they might be like, there are times in life or maybe in your, like fitness itself where the balance like doesn't always work. And like, that is true. But like the way that I like to kind of work with my clients, I want them to be able to give themselves grace, like in, like those particular times, right? Because it's like, especially if they are just, lifestyle, right? It's nothing like all crazy, then like we don't need to go brush like their process. Like that's just kind of how, I go see things. But
yeah. Well, I think the crazy part about what you're talking about, and the same is true with personal trainers, is that
Mhm.
you're really not, it's really not even about like the specific actions of this food and this workout and this exact exercise. It's really
Mhm.
just rewiring the brain and rewiring the habits. It's literally all it is. And then at the end of the day, those things become normalized in that person's life and because of that rewiring.
Exactly. Yep. And actually, I had a past client reach out and yesterday and tell me that we were done working together like last August, I think it was. And she said like since then she has like maintained her weight and her progress and everything, and like she's still logging her food and all the things. I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, absolutely.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
It's crazy because so many people get intimidated by the fact that, oh man, do I have to do this forever? Instead of thinking like, imagine what would happen. Imagine what I can like do if I do this forever. I think it's just a little mindset switch.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that's what all of like those fad diets like do not teach you, right? Like they like do not teach you how to go sustain your progress after like the 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. And like there's this one company which I won't say because I don't know how that works. There's one company and like, they'll give you really, really low calorie boxed food and frozen food and this, that, and the other. And it's like, so when they're done, how are they supposed to go maintain that, right? Because it's like, I do not think, the majority of people want to continue eating like sub 1,000 calories every day. That's just not healthy. That's not right.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
It's selling something that somebody thinks they want instead of selling and telling somebody what they really need and what can really help them. A lot of these people want to succeed. They've reached this point in their life, the 3 or 4 or 5 whatever levels to making a decision. It's like pre-contemplation, contemplation,
Oh,
whatever.
yes, yes. The stages of change or something
Yeah.
like that. Oh my gosh, we went over that like so much.
But these people reach this certain stage and that's great because a lot of people won't reach that and then they get pushed with bad information or bad products or bad whatever. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, I guess that didn't work. I'm not, then the action stage turns back into the not caring stage.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's like what sucks because, then that just kind of gets them in like a big circle and they're like, oh my gosh, like I want to go lose weight or, whatever it is. Then they go try said fat diet. Cool. Lose weight, but then they go back to their old habits because they didn't actually learn how to go change their current habits. So yeah, it's just like wild.
So much of it is psychology, like I said before, it's really just teaching people how to like rewire their brain. And I think if more people, like more of us kind of people, can understand how to actually genuinely impact someone's brain and psychology and how to communicate and how to share information, how to move people along the track, then I think that's where we start to see the real results instead of, like you're saying, just the back and forth.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And actually, so my husband, he's a gosh, what he tell me his technical like thing is like a mental health counselor, right? And so yeah, when I had first started the business, like I had told him like, it would be cool to kind of go and then partner up, somewhere down the line, if you will, because then, he could kind of go help them with all of that, right? And then, it wouldn't be as I don't want to say like as much for like myself, but like there have been times where, I've been talking to a client and I'm like, do you see anyone, you have like a counselor or someone? Because there are some points where I'm like, I am essentially overstepping and like, obviously that's like not my expertise at all. Right.
Right.
So I'm like, we really have to go get someone, else in here too. That brings me to a point. So my father-in-law, I had like worked with him for a little bit, lost like a lot of weight. And then, like he realized like with his counselor, I guess it was with his therapist, that like, obviously like there were like, deeper like I don't want to say problems, but like there was just like a lot happening like from his past, if you will. And so, like they said, like once he gets all of, that figured out, like that essentially can help to kind of go and like continue his weight loss journey, if you will. And like ever since like he's been working with like that therapist, like I guess they've been like working on different habits and behaviors and all of that, and like mindset changes and whatnot. And like, he's like been killing it. So I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, like that part helps like so much.
It's all upstairs, really, like all the crazy things that we see people achieve, the crazy goals and the crazy places people get in sports or business. Like it's literally just like this different kind of brain and how it's working at that time to make people do the actions, like to make people get up at 4 a.m. or to make people, stay up late and do the cardio if they're a bodybuilder or whatever, or, work on their business plan or whatever it is. Like that's a certain mind. That's a certain like what's going on then and there to create the things that happen down the line. But for you, tell us a little bit about actually starting your business.
When I first started the business, so let's see, it was March, and I got my first couple clients within a few weeks, I want to say. Granted, when you first begin, as I'm sure everyone else knows, your prices obviously are a lot lower, right? So I will say, as much as it was awesome to get those clients, like some of them were just kind of there, if you will, because it was, I don't want to say cheap, but let's be real, it was, right? So and that is like, all okay. I did take like a couple for free at first of course. And it's like what I've learned is, well, one, you are definitely not good for everyone, right? And two, the more that someone pays, the more they obviously are more likely to actually go continue and go like essentially go stick through it, right? Yeah, because I know like in the past, like when I've had some people who don't pay as much or whatever it is, they just like go to drop off, if you will. Now I will say though, like a couple of the people that were like my first couple clients, like I actually did work with them for like over a year plus, and like they stuck with me like when I did increase rates and all of the things, which like that's awesome. But I would say some of the struggles was probably mainly in that first year, I guess, if you will, because I made the mistake of offering like how do I phrase this, like a program, not a program, but like one of my like packages, if you will, was for a year. I have never offered that since then, because I got completely screwed over like by a mother and daughter, and they were supposed to, they both like signed a contract as well, all of the things, and they only paid me for a couple months and then said peace out, like I'm not losing weight, like whatever. Okay. So essentially, like I was completely screwed out of like, a lot of like money. So that was like probably the biggest thing at that point in time. So I only offer like a minimum of 6 months currently. And I do find that definitely works a lot better. But and then I would say one of the other things I've been, mentally trying to like get through the past couple years, mainly the past few months, is, business is going to like go up and down, up and down. And it's like, that's great, but like that sucks. So, yeah, it's all just kind of like the mental like side of things like within that like I'm still working on to like this particular day. But yeah, I would probably say those are like the biggest things. And I will say, kind of like what I said earlier, it doesn't help that like pretty much the only people that I like go follow on Instagram are other coaches and other like RDs or whatever, because like I get on and I'm like just kind of instantly like, bombarded with all of their stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I doing this? Like, should I be doing this? Like, what am I like over here doing? And so it is a lot for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that's what I've been going through the past like month or so. But, I'm hoping that like when April comes, like we'll be on and up and up. But kind of like what my husband has also said to me in the past, it's like, I always get into like these like mindset, like kind of holes, if you will. But then it's like, like something good happens, or like, I go get like a, like new clients, someone goes and then free signs or, whatever it is. And it's like instantly like, okay, cool. And it's like, it's really trying to not kind of go associate like my like self-worth, if you will, like with like how well the business is doing at that particular time. And like that is definitely something that like I have talked to like my own therapist about, like, in the past, and I probably should go see her again for that. But so I would say like at this point in time, that's probably like the biggest thing, like, I'm trying to kind of go like rewire my brain with, if that makes sense.
And two, I think you have to appreciate, even if it's not exactly where I want it to be, I do have something to show for it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And actually, like, funny enough, I was thinking about that a few days ago. I was like, it's literally like just myself, right? Like, and I've literally done, all of the things, right? Like, I am essentially like a salesperson, right? And I go market, and I'm, an RD, and I like go do this and go do that. It's like, that's like a lot of hats for, one individual. And so, like, I really try to kind of like you said, go think about it from like the outside kind of perspective. And it's like, wow, that's just like extremely cool, that in like 3 years time, like I've done all of this. So it definitely does pay to kind of go think about it from, that side of things too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, and being around like just in the community, like on social media, and I'm sure you like have a community somewhat locally that you're a part of, and it's really cool to get that push. And when you're not feeling great about whatever, you can get that feedback.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And like I'll be honest, that's probably how I meet like a lot of my friends. Which I don't know, like if that's kind of like odd still. I will say, like, I was thinking about it a few weeks back. I do feel that, like with the whole COVID thing, like I do feel like that kind of like pushed me into like a hole, if you will, because like I feel like I'm not as, sociable like as I would like to be, like, like when I'm out in public. Like, I'll be honest, like I'm outside, I go walk my dog, and I go see someone, and I'm like, other way. So, I definitely have to like get over, like that side of things too. But
Yeah, it was really good getting to talk to you on the podcast. I appreciate you coming on.
yeah, so let's see. So website is just simply purelybalancednutrition.com, and then Instagram is at nutrition with Kills. It's KILSS. And then like I do technically have a business Instagram, if you will. Like it's just pure, I'm pretty sure it's just Purely Balanced Nutrition, but I get on the other one a lot more. So